Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever time of day you're viewing this. Welcome to today's episode of Raw Podcast. I am your host, Rahsaan Corbin II, and we have another great video today, with some more great content and whatnot. And surprise, surprise, it's someone from NSBE, because that's most of my network. I kind of clarified this earlier on. But yeah, we have someone that I got to meet a few months ago, virtually, got to meet in person at the convention this year. I was on the Region 2 Professionals 2 Hype podcast, and I had a good time, and now he's on my podcast. So what's up, Titus?
What's up, Rahsaan? Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, no problem, man. I appreciate the background you had last time. It's very, you would have thought it was like a background screen, but it's your actual background.
It's actually background. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I could just toss something on there. Like,
Yeah, yeah. That's cool though. Yeah, I like the it's very nice aesthetic in the background. So that's what's up. But
that's
yeah, before we get into this interview, we're gonna do like quick 2 to 3, maybe 4 questions for like a little icebreaker. Because I know we talked a little bit before the call, but just to get the viewer a little bit warmed up as well, to what they're getting stored for. So let's go. Would you rather lose your phone or lose your keys?
keys,
Keys. It
right?
can be any keys, car keys, house keys, I don't know, keys to a safe. I don't know. Be all the above.
Sure. I mean, I can use my phone to contact support to get more keys.
There we go. Engineers think it's smarter, not harder. Would you rather have a pet snake or a pet tarantula?
Tarantula,
Tarantula.
because
I
it's
mean,
smaller,
it's smaller. Yeah,
right?
a little more.
So if it goes haywire, I'm just gonna crush it.
It's violent. Just put like a box over it or something. You don't have to kill it. Like,
Right,
anyway.
there we go. Just cage it. Simple.
Would you rather eat fries with no salt or eat over salted fries?
No salt.
No salt. Can't go wrong
That
with
way I
it.
get control how much salt goes into it if I choose so.
Makes sense. Would you rather pay too much? I like this one. Would you rather pay too much for groceries or for gas?
Groceries.
Groceries.
I mean, I'm happy stuff in my fridge. Plus, I don't have a car anyway, so.
Groceries. All right, good enough. Let's see. Let's do one more. That's not a good one. That's not a good one. All right. Would you rather drink? Actually, no. Let's not do that one. Would you rather give up pasta or give up nachos the rest of your life?
Pasta.
Pasta. You don't like pasta?
I mean, I don't mind it, but nachos make for good appetizers when you start at a restaurant.
Makes sense.
Right.
Anyway, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for playing today's icebreaker game. Now we're going to dive into the interview. So, as I mentioned, I met you through Nesby, and I know you, but the viewers don't know you. So, can you give a brief overview of who you are, where you're from, where'd you go to school, and what you study?
Sounds good. And once again, Rahsaan, thanks for having me. So, for anybody watching, my name is Titus Kariuki. Natively, I'm Kenyan American, and I actually grew up partly in Kenya, but my family migrated to the United States. So we landed in Washington State. And we were just talking before the podcast. I lived in Kent, Washington for some good chunk of time before moving to Pittsburgh, where I currently reside. So, where I went to school, still in Washington State, I did my undergrad in two places. First is Highline College. It's a community college where I could just get myself started and completed an associate's in computer science. And halfway through it, after a few Java classes, I realized that, oh, maybe this is something I could take a break from and explore more options from the technical side, of course, and still stay in STEM, which leads to the second part of my academia. I finished my bachelor's in mathematics from the University of Washington in Seattle. Go Dogs, go Huskies.
Yeah, I was gonna say wrong. Go ahead.
There we go. And that was class of 2022. So been out of college, removed 3 years now. Then moved to Pittsburgh for my current job. And you guys are gonna ask, okay, what do I do? I currently work as a data analytics business analyst at BNY. BNY is the Bank of New York, but I'm not in New York. So I'm in Pittsburgh because that's where they got apparently their largest office in North America. And what I do for from a day-to-day perspective is I help clients within the bank make most of one of our BI tools, which is ThoughtSpot. So the question to that is, what is ThoughtSpot? And like I just mentioned, ThoughtSpot is a cool data visualization or business intelligence tools that helps you get insights and make the most out of your data. We nickname it a glorified SQL editor just because you could put in a bunch of SQL queries at the back end and modify your data and then create dashboards depending on your business goals. So in my capacity as a business analyst is to help clients make the most out of it. And if they have any dashboards or reports they want to productionize, then I collaborate with data engineers to make that happen within weekly release cycles. So that's a teeny tiny aspect of my job. And I don't want to get more technical beyond that, but think of it as a consultant playing with data analytics tools. And it happens to be ThoughtSpot. So that's my day-to-day job, and here we are.
Awesome. Thank you for that brief overview. Now let's get into more about you. There's a couple sections we're going to touch on. First things first, I got to know about the NSBE journey. Like, how'd you get started? Because you're on the Region 2 Professionals Board, but like, how'd you get started?
So it's a peculiar start when you ask me that, because I learned of NSBE not through Black people, but friends of Black people, and not even at the University of Washington, but at my previous college, Highland College, again, community college. So I got some friends in this academic program, and they're saying we're gonna go to a conference. What conference is that? It's an NSBE conference. Cool. What's NSBE? It's the National Society of Black Engineers. And I'm thinking, wait, like, oh, so you're not Black, but you're going to a Black conference. I'm curious about the Black conference and that whole org. So it had me thinking for a while, considering that was 2019 in my ultimate year of my computer science degree in college. And then COVID happened. Then I'm at the University of Washington, transferred. And then towards the end of my first quarter at the University of Washington, we call it UW. So if I say UW, University of Washington, same thing. Something clicked in me like, oh, wait, Titus, so you're at UW. They should be having NSBE chapter here. So why not just log in and see what they got here? So I emailed their vice president at the time. She told me, cool, no membership for now because it's COVID, just join in. And bam. And considering that that was the first year in COVID, so all classes, everything was remote. And by that function is we had remote meetings or virtual meetings like Zoom. I joined the first three, meeting one, meeting two, meeting three, and I just got hooked. I'm thinking, wait, like actually great society of Black folks in STEM just coming together and share ideas and really inspiring others, like count me in. And I think that was January 2021. The rest is history.
So, what's up? And then what was your involvement beyond being a general body member at the chapter level?
That's a good question because a fun fact about me is it's now 4 years since I joined NSBE, and I've been a leader in NSBE more than I've been a general member, right? So I think my general membership doesn't amount to more than 1 year total of the past three when you think about it. That said, is I think I've got a question. What's the question again?
So what's your involvement beyond being a general body member?
Sure thing. So that being said, most of my engagement in NSBE comes from a leadership capacity whereby I like to create initiatives and programs and infrastructure that can benefit NSBE membership in whatever capacity I'm in. So if it's at the University of Washington, I'll say, oh, cool, let me be secretary or vice president and try to revitalize this chapter. That's another story coming in. It could be something in Region 6, like, okay, they need help with their comms work, with their telecoms. Titus chip in, just assist with whatever you can. Even after I graduated and still stayed in NSBE, which by the way, if you're a NSBE not a grad, definitely stay in NSBE and become a professional. First year's free, right? Plug. still, even when I moved to Region 2, became a professional, I could identify a problem and see the impact of the solution towards its membership. So in my case, it would be social media, like communications, and say, okay, if we just revitalize our whole social media branding and strategy, then that could in some way incentivize members to not just stay in NSBE, but also with membership retention or that pipeline between collegiate and professionals, considering that I'm not too far fetched from both sides. So to summarize the question is, I mostly operate in NSBE from a leadership capacity and identify any hiccups in there, and if it's possible for me to remedy it during my time.
Cool. And then what were some of the roles you had? I know you mentioned telecoms, but are there any other roles you had, like, I don't know, treasurer, senator, uh, I don't know, committee lead? Like, what were some of the roles you served in?
Sure thing. Happy to tell you that. And I'll go by chronology since 2021 till today. So here's another crazy fact. First off, folks call me the goat of Nesby. I don't know how that is, but it is what it is. Okay. Different story. But here's the thing. So I joined Nesby in January 21, got hooked into it. April, 3 months later, I'm running for leadership. Okay, but that's at the chapter level at the University of Washington. I run for secretary just cause, I want to improve my communication and also create this whole communications database for our chapter. Because the fun part is I run for secretary, but there is a vacuum for vice president. And qualification for vice president entails that you should be a board member at least
1 year.
1 year before running for that position. But nobody ran for it. And so the board's like, anybody want to fill in? Titus, you look good. You want to do it? Sure, let's do it. And so by that fact, I became the shortest ever living secretary at the University of Washington. And I was secretary for a whole grade 3 hours, right, at the University of Washington, then pivoted to vice president. So eventually became vice president at the University of Washington. Okay. Still, I'm curious about this whole giant of NSBE. And as you know, there's not just chapter, there's region. And word comes out that regional applications are open. And I'm looking at the whole bylaws for Region 6 and thinking, telecoms looks interesting because it's all IT and aligned to my major, math, computer science. So applied to that, got in. So at this point, we have two roles. Okay. I don't know how much we're going to get into this part, but that year, 21, 22, was a really interesting year for NSBE Region 6, considering we had a regional board of 5 people.
Mhm,
Meaning by that function, you gotta double dip, if not triple dip roles over there. So
mhm.
by that function, I became secretary, like pseudo secretary for Region 6. Okay, we keep going. That's my whole first year in NSBE. Second year in NSBE is I stayed on the regional board for Region 6 and became secretary. So you could say that's 3, 4, because pseudo doesn't count, so 3. Okay. Towards the end of 22, 23, something comes up and we don't have a parliamentarian. And our vice, shout out Elizabeth, she's running for chair. And by the bylaws, you want to avoid conflict of interest. So in that case, you want an acting parley just to oversee regional elections. And guess who they look up to? Me. So for like 2 weeks, I became acting parliamentarian. Okay. And then I took a break 23, 24, came back 24, so last year, as a Region 2 professional board member and did again telecoms, right? And so looking at that, you have like 5 positions in under 4 years,
Mhm.
but I think there's something more to come if this whole transition period. as of this recording is right now. So just to summarize your question, or rather the answer, UW Vice President, R6 Telecoms, R6 Secretary, probably for 2 weeks, and R2PB Telecoms.
Now that's funny. You're like, I was the shortest living secretary at University of Washington for 3 hours. And then
And
parliamentarian for 2 weeks is also kind of short duration too.
bro, it's something. Like I had my pro experience at NSBE Kansas City, so NSBE 49. I just took my heads off for parliamentarians because like they move the conference behind the scenes. It's not even a joke.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's what's up though. Congrats on the many accomplishments. I'm kind of similar. Well, I am, yeah, kind of similar because I never served at a regional level, but
Mhm.
I've been on the leadership for NSBE longer than I've been a general body member. I was probably been a general body member for good 6 months total, I want to say, because my first semester at Florida A&M University was January 2021, and I was hooked to the chapter. I was like, I want to get involved. I ran for programs chair, not the best position to start with, but I learned a lot. Eventually I became recruitment chair, vice president, and president. Now membership chair for the DC professionals. But yeah, I've been in. I didn't. I took a break after graduation. I took like 3 months off, and I'm back at it. And like the 3 months leading up to like elections in undergrad, that's 3 months, right there. That's 6 months, So yeah, right there with you. Anyway, have you always did you always see yourself getting in those leadership positions beyond before like getting to college? Like, did you serve in leadership in high school too?
I did in high school, but not as much as I'd expect, at least with, my collegiate career. And it's part of the reasons why I'm thankful to NASB for giving me this whole platform for leadership and stuff. The context is, so I did high school sometime back in Kenya, and they have their own leadership system whereby, okay, you're gonna be this head boy, you're gonna be this captain or whatever, and like lead this team, just do what you gotta do, okay? And for a good time, I did that, but after my whole high school graduation, just starting college, even during college, and when I say college, Highland College, not UW, University of Washington, I kind of went into mute for some reason. I don't know why. Like maybe that transition to college is something that you got to think about, like you got to take into account of and whatnot. And so the fact that you got to get your grades up and you got to learn the new system and you got to know how to interact with people per se in an uncomfortable way, for some reason or another, like, yes, you could still say I was a leader, but not the kind of leader I expected to be like or anticipated ever. Which is why back to NSBE, the moment I got into NSBE and realized this is the value proposition it offers to its members, I'm like, I, how the weekend says it, I feel it coming. I
I
feel
feel
it
it
like literally, right, there we
coming.
go. Yeah. I mean, I could just tell that my leadership voice is coming back and haven't been the same ever since. So just to put it into context is in my past life had that leadership that went mute, but with NSBE it just came back and erupted. I'm grateful for it.
That's what's up. And in what ways did Nesby, even to now, how has it contributed to your professional development skills from like networking to just talking to people one on one in interviews? Like, how did it contribute to that? Even professional too, social.
Right.
You kind of talked on the social part, but are there anything else you want to touch on where Nesby helped you?
Pro though, yeah. I always tell everybody that NSBE legit gave me everything that I have today, And I'll start out with my job because I got my job through SHIP, which one of my mentors helped me attain. And I met my mentor from a fellowship program called Takeoff Fellowship. And I learned about Takeoff through NSBE. So thinking about that whole chain of events, it all started from NSBE, and I'm grateful for it. NSBE has given me my close friends as well. Some of them they're in Washington, we got folks in California, whatever. And when you're talking about friends, literally we're looking at peers, like how I'm interacting with you today. Like we're just recent college grads, just having a good time. I got really inspired by my friends, like two of them. One of them's at Microsoft making six figures, and she's like, "What? Like 3 years older than me?" I'm like, "No way, Nesby produced her, right?" I got a guy, he's graduating next year from a PhD in computer science, University of Washington, and bro's literally being paid six figures just to do computational research. I'm like, bro, there's no way Nesby produces this kinds of people, and I'm even happy to call them my friends. So literally, it's giving me some good friends, giving me a network. In terms of personal development, I could say that it's helped me increase my leadership capacity. That's obvious. Also helped me improve my communication because you're not just talking to yourself, you're talking to a few thousand people who need your info, who need to hear what you're going to say. And case study for this is back in 2023, as I was departing from the R6 regional board, I sent out a survey onto the R6 group chat asking them, hey, like, I just want to grow myself. Here's feedback about me. It's anonymous. Tell me what you're going to tell me about me. So I'm going to be crucified at your name. And perhaps the best pieces of feedback came from two people, anonymous, but they agreed that, Titus, you got to work on your communication. Like you could be a little bit more clear. You say stuff which is generally well intended, but I get confused sometimes. So hearing that is kind of like a sting, but that's the thing you needed to improve yourself. So in that manner, I've been perfecting or improving my communication ever since. I like to say you be the judge of that. I'm not going to judge myself. Another thing is also strategy. When you're a leader in NSBE, you got to think of some initiative you want to create. You're thinking of whatever program that you're going to bring up, any potential ROI to the membership, and then just try to put pieces together and see, okay, what's the best strategy we can to execute this? So strategy's been helpful. Two more to that is, and you might agree with this, is NSBE has improved my entrepreneurial skills. So a good number of engineers who come to NSBE end up being entrepreneurs in their own sense. Like the guy I told you with the CS PhD is also his own nonprofit founder doing great stuff in Washington. I know a lot of folks in NSBE come in with, say, a master's in engineering and say, huh, I want to do an MBA or stuff and go start my own fund or whatever. Like literally, NSBE is its own entrepreneurship incubator. In fact, there's this long-winded quote which I gave my NSBE leadership mentees, so folks who want to run for REB, for example, and it still holds true today. Today, so it kind of goes like this, and this is a challenge for anybody listening. Reason for why you want to run for leadership, even if it's just 1 year. At NSBE, you're gonna get MBA level skills you won't get anywhere else in your undergrad. Other orgs, they're mostly professional led. Could be folks within their 30s, 40, like 50, etc., that age gap. A whole NSBE led by undergrads, like for the most part, that is, because you got professionals. They're leading 24,000 folks, members worldwide. They're managing over 2 million bucks in budgets, annual budgets, and they're playing banger conferences all before one, you graduate college, and two, before you turn to 25.
Hmm.
And personal reflection on that is, I'm currently discerning an MBA, so thinking of if I'm gonna pursue a business degree. And if that ever happens, there's a good chance NSBE catalyzed me to that.
Hmm.
So entrepreneurship is a good skill. And then the last skill is, okay, not real skill, but say opportunity that NSBE gave me. I think within my first year, I got 3 podcasts just by saying I'm on the regional board of NSBE. So I remember there was this one time I walked through SHIP during the career fair and I met this guy, shout out Jorge. I forgot what company he works for, but it's in construction. And he's like, hey, you guys, you're interesting. Let's talk and chat and blah, blah, blah. And your intro pitch, you talk about, oh, by the way, I'm on the regional board for NSBE. I do ABC. Wait, NSBE leadership? Let's do a podcast. Like literally, within 2 hours of meeting him, like 24 hours later, we got a podcast set up with him on the conference. I put it somewhere on my LinkedIn and it's fun. So anyway, I'll just say that there's some visibility being in leadership in NSBE has given me, and I'm just thankful for it. Long-winded, but I could go on about everything NSBE's given me, which is why I want to give back, and that's my story.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I can definitely agree with the friends, like real genuine friends. I've either met them through general membership or through leadership. Like connecting with the other presidents from other chapters, even the regional, like the chairs, the secretaries and all that. Even nationals. How could I forget about nationals? I became closer with Avery Lane. Him and I were talking more and more after he was elected, and I remember congratulating him. I like messaged him on Instagram, like, "Hey, congratulations! Looking forward to working with you." Then, like, fast forward to August of that year, I'm seeing him at the regional leadership conference, and I'm like, "Oh, snap! Hey, do you remember me? We met at the conference." Da, 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 da. So yeah, a lot of lifelong friends, and I still talk to them on a daily basis. And you touched on one part, the entrepreneurship aspect, and you touched on how your friend became a leader or started his own nonprofit. So, next portion, you have all these leadership development skills. You have all these leadership skills from personal aspect to networking to just communicating in general. Your nonprofit, KiSa, is that pronounced it correctly?
You did.
Cool. So, was this before was this before you became a leader in NSBE, or was this something you came up with while you were still in leadership?
It's something that I came up with during and after leadership. And when I say after leadership, because I'm still back in leadership anyway, I took a hiatus from NSBE for one, two reasons, and we can talk into that later. But let's just say I found a niche and saw, okay, well, there's some cans in here, and I'm like, we could actually do something, just meet up informally and do stuff, and just added them to group chat, like not even just from NSBE, just from personal contacts, networks, etc. And that whole time it was just a group chat and thinking you could just share stuff and resources and yada yada yada. But it came subtly through NSBE and subtly outside of NSBE in both ways.
It's cool. And then can you explain the mission behind your nonprofit?
Sure thing. So I like to tell folks simply it's a Kenyan version of NSBE per se, because I'm Kenyan natively. But what we want to do for our membership is to enhance their STEM and technical careers through academic, leadership, personal and professional development. And we want to create for them that community, provide them resources that will help them fulfill those good careers in STEM, whether it could be in the United States or anywhere they want to go with it.
That's what's up. And then like what keeps you going every day with pushing, keep continuing this momentum with your nonprofit? I know you said it's like a version of Nesby, but like what keeps you going every day when it comes to this?
Good thing. So I'm thankful to God that I have like a 5-year vision for it and if you may, 70-year vision for it. And I think of it as this whole pipeline, like this whole go-to center for collecting STEM talent that might be needed elsewhere. It could be somewhere in Africa, it could be somewhere in, say, for example, Australia, whatever. That end vision, no matter how rough stuff is in between, like we're in 2025. I don't know what's gonna happen in 2027, for example. I don't know what's gonna happen in 2032, like, right. But I'm most encouraged by that end vision, which sometimes can be even hard to articulate in words because you think, okay, we have this org, we have this mission that want to get more folks into STEM and etc. And I like to tell folks this that this is an org, and there might be similar sentiments in NSBE. This is a place I like my grandkids to join one day. This is something unlike, say, your kids, or if you get somebody like a mate, like a, how to call them, Nesbate, something like that. Get them here, whatever, and propulse it till you have future generations coming into it. So let's maintain the whole long-term vision and that North Star I have for this organization. And that really just gets me moving on for better for worse.
So thinking about the future,
There we
thinking about
go.
the impact of the youth. So I meant to ask, how long has your nonprofit been around?
We're gonna be 2 years in July, this
Oh,
July.
nice.
Yeah,
Congrats. Congrats. Early birthday to your nonprofit.
there we go.
What were the most critical steps you took within the first 6 to 12 months establishing, the foundation and building momentum early on with your nonprofit?
Sure thing. That's a good question. What really helped me get it up to speed is using already what works, right? So whenever you start whatever enterprise, you have two ways to do it. Either reinvent the wheel or just use a proven system, right? And more chances than not, you're better off succeeding using what's proven before you have the capacity to reinvent the wheel. And that said, back in that period between March and July 23, I was in a whole host of orgs which just happened to do the same thing. One, obviously, NSBE, right? Two is I was volunteering at the fellowship program that gave me my job, so take off fellowship. Three is the pal I just told you who did his own nonprofit in Washington. I was also volunteering there, so in some capacity, there's that. It's called Avella, a vision for electronic literacy and access. I don't know if it's electronic or engineering, one of the two, but either way, STEMish. And then four is I got invited to this startup by one of my mentors called Candor, whereby they just like to give candid conversations from professionals to undergrads and help them get good careers. So the fact that those four experiences combined over a set of 5 to 6 months, I could learn from nonprofit leaders and their systems and for example, any revenue models that they got, like how to run an org or a business. That was like, say, applying cyanide to a volcano just waiting to erupt, such that I can know, okay, they all have meetings, check. They all have members, check. They all have services provided to members, check. Okay, they have the basics, a website, social media, yada, 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 good. Okay, so break from NSBE happens, just about to start my job, thinking, okay, why not just replicate this into KiSa, right? And it's a funny thing because at the time we nicknamed ourselves Canyon Set Nesby, but if you're gonna start something, you're not gonna use Nesby's name because it's its own entity. So we said, okay, let's just rebrand ourselves. So from Canyon Set Nesby, we went to Canyon Set STEM Association, but we're still like 99% pegged to Nesby at this point. So that said, I used the existing systems that worked within my nonprofit and entrepreneurial startup environments, and then added them to KiSa. And there's still a thing going on till today. Still a work in progress, but I like to be iterative and find what works. I'm a data analyst by professional, so look at the data, tweak on improvements, and then build something that hopefully members like. Yeah.
It's amazing. And then challenges. What obstacles did you come across in the early stage? Well, technically, you're still in the early stages because you're still considered a young nonprofit, being within the 2 year mark. But what were some challenges you came across?
Of course, I mean, with building something, even with Nesby, there's bound to be challenges coming your way. That said, is I had to cope with the fact that not everybody is like me, right? I'm the founder, I'm the president, and by default, cause I care about this cause so deeply, I'm the most flexible, right? But not everybody has that intensity as I have. And when you're here and they're here, there's this whole dichotomy that you got to reconcile. One way to do it is you could force them to match your speed, right? But that's a give or take because that's kind of like involuntary slavery, if you may. Or two is you could match their pace, but the org's not having any traction and the members who are in it don't get anything, right? So that's one piece I had to learn myself that not everybody's like you. Okay, one. Two is there's this funny joke that runs in entrepreneurship that they don't teach you this stuff in school. Like, of course, yeah, you could say that. Like, they don't teach a lot of this in school. But you remember I'm a math major. I didn't do business. Right. So I'm thinking, okay, they probably had this in some social studies class or sociology or business management class, which probably could have been helpful early on, but either way, whether or not they taught it in school, I missed the mark for it, but that's okay because with entrepreneurship, you're just learning every day on the job. That's another one. Three is I got this eye opener like last year, mid last year to even till today. When you start an org, eventually you're leading two entities. You're leading the org, one, and you're leading the people leading the org, two. So it's kind of like you have two babies and you just wanted one baby, but you got twins. And so while you're trying to maintain the vision for the org and ensure it's running at a proper rate, you're also thinking, okay, so I have some people here who volunteer to be leaders here. Because I mean, look, volunteer leadership, like that's something. They're taking time out of the day to do something that's not yet being paid for. That so you gotta make up for that. And so I'm thinking, how can I best invest in my board and these people in a way that they feel valued in their work and they in turn perform better to lead the org itself. Right. So they say with business, a huge part of it is just finding the right people to do the job, and in many cases, much better than you. Note to self. Okay. Four is, and I didn't think about this before, but there's something called the nonprofit founder syndrome. It could be in nonprofits, for profits, whatever. And the idea behind that is everything in that org is pegged to you, right? So at the early stages of KiSa, everything at the org is pegged to me, right? If it's social media, I gotta do it. If it's membership management, like I gotta do it. If it's a meeting arrangement, I gotta do it. Like you name it and so forth, so on. And what's funny about that is, you know how something should be done, but you're not confident enough to delegate it to somebody else because they might not do it to the same standard as you want it. So it's something that, if I can admit, I'm working on, like trying to mentor them, like tutor them up, like say, okay, there is this 1090, is it 1090? No, 10-80-10 rule in project management. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
I have.
Right, yeah. So I try to do, for anybody listening, 1080 is the first 10% of the project you work together and you ideate it. So you give the foundation for the project. Let them do 80% of the job because that's what you're delegating them. Then the last 10% is just going to be you and them collaborating, finding defects, like make some corrections if need be, and boom, you got your whole project. Okay, there we go. So all that being said is something I'm doing to mitigate that nonprofit founder syndrome is getting a good board. And I think I suffered from this maybe in the first 3, 4, 5 months launching KiSa, but ever since then, once I got people to help me with this, I'm like, well, okay, I can breathe now. Right. So learn to delegate and teach them like how to do a job, and while also encouraging them to bring their own ideas to the table. You could bring them to the podcast today and you'll ask them what's the frequent question I ask, and they'll say, if you can find a better way to do this than what we just discussed, just let me know and I'm happy to hear it. So in that matter, not only just delegating it, but also giving them that autonomy and trust, telling them that, yeah, I know you're gonna do a good job with this. Like you can kill it. Just let me know if you need my help and we can review it. So nonprofit founder syndrome, but I think I'm getting the cure for that. Another issue I faced, which I learned, and this is another note to self, is an org moves to the speed of its leadership. So if you're the leadership, and in my case, I'll take myself for example, if you're the founder and you're moving at 30 miles per hour, they're always gonna move at that speed. 30 mph. On the other hand, is if you're moving at 120, the org has no choice but to move at 120, right? And so looking at it that way has helped me, make faster decisions with lower risk because, of course, you don't want to make something stupid and bear the consequences. So I'm like, okay, what's something low risk I can decide quickly and get faster feedback loops and whatever. So in other words, is something that would take me 3 weeks to decide. I took 3 days, executed for the next 3 days after that, and on the seventh day, I already got feedback for the next iteration. So that way it's helped me move faster and in speed, and it's something I want to maintain within the org, just being agile and stuff. Um, I could go to the last one, which is because balance, like you gotta balance like KiSa and NSBE work, life, etc. Maybe the last one I would say is the opinions of others. Because when you have an idea and you tell it to everybody, like literally not everybody's gonna root for you, right? They're gonna say, nah, it's not gonna work. Like, oh no, you're just gonna cause a whole lot of segregation for, these black people. Like, you're not doing the right thing. Nah, let's just play it safe. Like, and my mom told me something I'll never forget in a good way that not everybody needs to know your idea. Like, not everybody has to give an opinion about it because you have that North Star, you have that vision that you want to set forward and do it. They didn't get that vision, like nobody had it implanted. It's only for you. And so long as you have it, it's your job to execute. Everything else is just gonna be 2 cents. So trying to mitigate myself away from those opinions that don't serve not just me, by the way, our membership like KiSa, because we were like 250 folks. One person is not going to deviate me from that. So some good challenges, some good problems to have at the end of the day, because hey, that's entrepreneurship.
Amazing, amazing. We're gonna close up this one last section. Talk about being a self-starter. You have a blog too, expressing yourself online. You want to talk about that a little bit? Carrera's Chronicles, pronounce it correctly?
Yeah, you did.
Oh yeah, was this something you started back in school or is it something more recent?
It's something I started back in school, but it hasn't gained traction till recently. And when I talk about school, I'm going back 8 years ago in high school. I just had an idea for, inspirational notes and good practical productivity ideas or motivational, if you may. Just give some notes from some friends, and they're like, "Hmm, Titus, I actually like this. Like, this is game. You're good." I'm like, "Okay." So it's been something in the works for 8 years, but hasn't gained traction over the last two for obvious reasons. School in the way.
That's cool. And then what made you like? What's some of the content you talk about? Like, what are some inspirational quotes or excerpts you usually post about?
Sure thing. So most of the time, I just find myself talking about personal development because I'm like always evolving, like always trying to improve myself in every facet, wherever my mind can go. And it's also a good credibility checker because I don't know if you're gonna ask this question, but apparently everybody on the internet is a guru, like they're an expert, right? And for me, I like to note this as notes to self. So I'm writing what actually works for me, and if it helps you, well and good, right? And one of the fields just so happens to be personal development. Another thing I'm interested in expanding into is stuff like leadership, like how you're going to lead teams, orgs, NSBE, KiSa, maybe stuff like with my day-to-day job, technology, just trying to analyze, okay, this tool, what's happening with AI, just as a way for me to understand the scope of what's happening in the world. But for right now, mostly, like say 50, 60% is just personal development content.
That's cool. That's cool.
Mm.
And how often do you usually post, or did you usually
So
post?
sure thing. So my posting schedule is sporadic in the sense that there's sometimes I could post like 3 times a week on whatever platform because I got my website, LinkedIn, Medium, the blog website. And other times this is gonna take me months in between because I got a whole backlog of content that I just wanna curate and articulate very well. So that's one side of it. On the other side, though, and I don't know if you're gonna ask this question, but I kind of tuned part of the website into a newsletter, which now has me posting every week. So there's that part where I just write something for 1 minute, share with somebody or with my email list, and that's another way to keep me accountable and consistent. So I'm past the 53rd week mark, so that's just over a year. And with the newsletter specifically from Careers Chronicles, now that's every week.
How do you measure success as a blogger?
The goal for Careers Chronicles is to impact as many people with my thoughts, words, and actions. Actions again through NSBE work, KiSa, etc. Thoughts, what I have to think about emerging trends, what I learn about stuff, and all that said and done, if what I have to think, what I have to say can inspire somebody and make their day better or help them think life in a different way, literally that's a W for me. Right. So, of course, you could say, oh, I want like thousands of blog views. I want like whole sponsors coming in and putting paid ads here. Like, yes, that's going to be resolved. But for right now, I think I'm happy just impacting people and knowing that they gain value from my thoughts.
It's amazing.
Mhm.
Positively impact community if you must.
There you go.
How do you plan? Final question. How do you see your blog growing within the next? Kind of talked about like next 70 years. Next 5 years or so. Obviously not. Don't think too far out. But next like year or so, 6 months. How do you see it growing?
Sure thing. So, obviously, you have AI into the mix per se. And personally, I use AI just to brainstorm and think through stuff or give a heaven's advocate for whatever ideas I have. So I got a co-writer, if you may.
Mhm.
Then two is also just being authentic to myself, because like I mentioned, I want to be anti-guru. Like I don't claim myself to be an expert unless I literally have it backed onto my resume, for example. And it's funny because even on the website, like for a good chunk of my posts, I just say, "Oh, I'm learning this. I know my mind's gonna change on this, or whatever it may be. If the data tells me a different story, sure." But until then, just maintain authenticity in that aspect. And then three is, perpetuating social media. So in my case, you have stuff like LinkedIn, you have Medium, you have Instagram, whatever. Somebody like, say, Abraham Lincoln didn't have social media back in the days, but he could have biographies written in his name, just talking about the massive stories he had, all that. And I'm just made to think, what if he lived in the 21st century, whereby you got TikTok with 12-second reels? So I think we underestimate the power of social media if used to educate people. So it's something I want to leverage as well. And then lastly is really just playing the long game because I just want to keep perpetuating this writing practice just for me to improve my thought articulation and whatever. So in that regard, I say I'm finally a writer. I'm thankful. I don't have books to show for it yet, but I have a blog. I have newsletters. That's great. And just keep writing, for the rest of my life. That's how I want to play the whole game.
It's amazing. I'm gonna get your autobiography one day.
You will.
Anyway, I'll get your autobiography one day. But yeah, thank you, Titus, for being on here. Really appreciate it, and I really like that was a full circle moment. I was on your platform, now you're on mine, so I really like that. Do you have any closing remarks? Because you talked about words of encouragement, quotes and whatnot. But do you have any words you want to say to the viewer watching this?
Sure thing. So I always tell people that you have a reason for being on this planet. Like, it doesn't even have to be STEM or tech or whatever. Like, you have a certain calling. Like, folks ask themselves this question, what am I gonna do for the rest of my life? Like, what am I supposed to do? And if, for example, you're in your 20s you're not expected to have that answer straight. Like, it's okay, it's normal. But personally, I like to call it, just doing the will of God, because at some moment something's gonna strike you and say, Rahsaan, start the podcast. Titus, go into leadership. Like, once you get that intuition feeling, like, definitely act onto it. And there's a good chance you're gonna be glad you took the step. So whatever your purpose is, definitely go into it. If not, don't worry about it. Just take time, think about it. And once you land onto it, go easy, go breezy, baby.
It's a good way to end off. But yeah, once again, thank you, Titus, for being on. Looking forward to the all the amazing growth we engineers or us Nesby. My friend said Nesbians, so like aliens, Nesbians. Yeah, she coined the term Nesbians back in my collegiate chapter. Anyway, us as Nesbians, how we learn to grow and inspire others along the way, because that's what I mean at the end of the day. But yeah, for the viewer watching this, if you found something inspiring, go ahead, rewind, and rewatch the part you want to see again. I'm playing with you. You can do that if you want, but I'd rather you just like the video, come back at a later date, digest the information for a little bit. So comment, subscribe, and share with a friend. And be sure to, stay in tune for the new episodes. Season 3, we're going strong. But until next time, y'all take it easy.
Peace.